Today we embark on a journey through time to explore the world's biggest bandits in chronological order, uncovering their exploits, motivations, and lasting legacies. But first, what exactly is a bandit? In essence, a bandit is an outlaw who typically engages in robbery, often as part of an organized group. These individuals operate outside the bounds of law and society, sometimes driven by necessity, other times by a desire for wealth or notoriety. While their actions are criminal, bandits have frequently captured the public imagination, becoming the subjects of legends, ballads, and even modern-day films. Our chronological exploration begins in ancient times, with one of the earliest recorded bandits in history. Bulla Felix, also known as Felix the Fortunate, terrorized Italy during the reign of Emperor Septimius Severus around 200 CE. Bulla led a band of 600 men, orchestrating elaborate heists and outsmarting Roman authorities for 2 years. What set Bulla apart was his Robin Hood-like approach. He often targeted wealthy Romans and was known to release captives without ransom if they were poor. Bulla's exploits became so notorious that the emperor personally tasked the Praetorian prefect with capturing him. Eventually betrayed by a lover, Bulla was arrested and thrown to wild beasts in the arena. His legacy lived on in Roman folklore, symbolizing resistance against oppressive authority. Fast forward to 9th century China, where we encounter Huang Chao, a salt smuggler turned rebel leader. Huang began his career in the salt trade, which was heavily taxed and regulated by the Tang dynasty. As economic conditions worsened and corruption grew, Huang led a massive rebellion against the government. From 875 to 884 CE, Huang's forces captured several major cities, including the capital Chang'an. Although initially successful, Huang's rebellion was eventually crushed, and he committed suicide. While his actions were destructive, Huang Chao's rebellion significantly weakened the Tang dynasty, hastening its eventual collapse and reshaping Chinese history. Moving to medieval England, we find the legendary figure of Robin Hood. While his historical existence is debated, the legend of Robin Hood emerged in the 12th and 13th centuries. According to folklore, Robin Hood was a skilled archer and swordsman who robbed from the rich to give to the poor. He and his band of merry men operated from Sherwood Forest, defying the Sheriff of Nottingham and supporting the rightful king. Whether based on a real person or a composite of several outlaws, Robin Hood's story has endured for centuries, symbolizing justice, rebellion against tyranny, and championing the common people against oppressive authority. In 16th century China, we encounter Gao Qiu, a bandit who rose to become one of the most feared pirates in Chinese history. Operating along the southeastern coast, Gao commanded a fleet of over 10,000 men and hundreds of ships. He terrorized coastal towns, plundered merchant vessels, and even defeated imperial navies. Gao's power grew to such an extent that he established his own mini-state, complete with taxes and laws. The Ming dynasty was forced to negotiate with him, eventually offering him an official position in exchange for his surrender. Gao's story illustrates how some bandits were able to amass such power that they became de facto rulers in their own right. The 17th century brings us to the Caribbean, where we meet Henry Morgan, one of the most successful privateers in history. While technically operating under British authority, Morgan's activities often crossed the line into outright piracy. From 1661 to 1668, Morgan led daring raids on Spanish colonies, amassing enormous wealth and notoriety. His most famous exploit was the sacking of Panama City in 1671, which violated a peace treaty between England and Spain. Despite facing trial, Morgan's political connections saved him, and he later became Lieutenant Governor of Jamaica. Morgan's career demonstrates the often blurry line between state-sanctioned privateering and banditry in the Age of Sail. As we enter the 18th century, we encounter Stenka Razin, a Cossack leader who led a major uprising against the Russian Tsardom. Razin began his career as a river pirate along the Volga, attacking merchant ships and amassing a significant following. In 1670, he launched a full-scale rebellion against the Russian nobility and Tsar Alexis. Razin's forces captured several cities and threatened Moscow itself. His rebellion, fueled by peasant discontent and promises of freedom, shook the foundations of the Russian state. Although eventually defeated and executed in 1671, Razin became a folk hero in Russian culture, symbolizing resistance against oppression. The late 18th century introduces us to Rob Roy MacGregor, the Scottish outlaw who became a folk hero. Born in 1671, Rob Roy turned to cattle rustling and protection rackets after losing his lands due to debt. Operating in the Scottish Highlands, he became known for his cunning, swordsmanship, and code of honor. Rob Roy often targeted wealthy landowners while protecting poorer clan members. His exploits, romanticized in Sir Walter Scott's novel, made him a symbol of Scottish nationalism and resistance against English encroachment. Despite periods of outlawry and imprisonment, Rob Roy eventually received a pardon and died peacefully in his bed in 1734, a rarity among bandits. As we move into the 19th century, we encounter Jesse James, one of America's most notorious outlaws. Born in 1847 in Missouri, James began his criminal career as a Confederate guerrilla during the Civil War. After the war, he formed the James Younger Gang, which carried out a series of daring bank and train robberies across the Midwest. James became a controversial figure, viewed as a cold-blooded killer by some and a Robin Hood figure by others. His carefully cultivated image as a wronged Southerner fighting against Northern oppression gained him sympathy in some quarters. James's criminal career ended in 1882 when he was shot by a fellow gang member for reward money. His life and death have since become an enduring part of American folklore. Continuing in the American West, we come to Butch Cassidy, leader of the Wild Bunch Gang. Born Robert Leroy Parker. In 1866, Cassidy embarked on a life of crime in his teens. He and his gang, which included the Sundance Kid, became known for their well-planned train and bank robberies across the western United States. Unlike many outlaws of his time, Cassidy prided himself on minimizing violence during heists. The Wild Bunch's exploits captured the public imagination, aided by the emerging technologies of photography and the press. Pursued relentlessly by Pinkerton detectives, Cassidy and the Sundance Kid fled to South America in 1901. Their ultimate fate remains a mystery, with conflicting accounts of their deaths in Bolivia or their secret return to the United States. Crossing the Atlantic to early 20th century France, we encounter the infamous Jules Bonneau. A pioneer of the motorized getaway, Bonneau led the Bonneau Gang, which terrorized Paris from 1911 to 1912. An anarchist and skilled mechanic, Bonneau used stolen automobiles to conduct a series of audacious bank robberies and burglaries. The gang's use of technology and their political motivations set them apart from traditional bandits. Bonneau's exploits, including the first car chase in French history, captivated the public and confounded the police. The gang's reign of terror ended in a dramatic siege, with Bonneau killed in a final shootout. Despite their short career, the Bonneau Gang's actions influenced both criminal techniques and police procedures for years to come. In Depression-era America, we encounter one of the most famous bandit couples in history, Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow embarked on a 2-year crime spree from 1932 to 1934, robbing banks, stores, and gas stations across the central United States. Their exploits, romanticized by the media, captured the public imagination during the hard times of the Great Depression. The couple's youth, their devotion to each other, and their daring escapes made them folk heroes to some, despite the violence of their crimes. Their spree came to a bloody end in a police ambush in Louisiana. The story of Bonnie and Clyde has since become a part of American popular culture, symbolizing rebellion against authority and tragic romance. Moving to mid-20th century Britain, we encounter Ronald Biggs, a member of the gang that carried out the Great Train Robbery of 1963. This audacious heist of a Royal Mail train netted over £2.6 million, an enormous sum at the time. Biggs's role in the robbery was relatively minor, but his subsequent escape from prison and decades-long exile in Brazil made him the most famous member of the gang. Biggs became something of a celebrity fugitive, even recording with the Sex Pistols in 1978. He voluntarily returned to Britain in 2001 to face his remaining sentence. Biggs's story highlights how modern media can transform a criminal into a celebrity, blurring the lines between notoriety and fame. In late 20th century Colombia, we encounter Pablo Escobar, a bandit who rose to become the wealthiest criminal in history. As the head of the Medellin cartel, Escobar controlled an estimated 80% of the global cocaine market at the height of his power in the 1980s. His immense wealth allowed him to bribe or intimidate government officials, while also cultivating a Robin Hood image among the poor through public works projects. Escobar's reign of terror included the assassination of politicians, judges, and rival drug lords. His war against the Colombian state led to a manhunt that ended with his death in 1993. Escobar's life demonstrates how modern bandits can amass power rivaling that of nations, blending traditional banditry with organized crime and political influence. Our journey through the annals of banditry concludes in the digital age with Albert Gonzalez, a hacker who orchestrated some of the largest credit card thefts in history. From 2005 to 2008, Gonzalez and his team breached the security of major retailers and payment processors, stealing over 170 million credit card numbers. Unlike traditional bandits, Gonzalez operated in the virtual realm, using his computer skills to amass millions of dollars. His activities highlight how banditry has evolved in the information age, with cybercriminals able to steal vast sums without physical confrontation. Gonzalez was eventually caught and sentenced to 20 years in prison, serving as a cautionary tale in the era of digital crime. As we reflect on this chronological journey through the world's biggest bandits, several themes emerge. Throughout history, bandits have often risen to prominence during times of social upheaval, economic hardship, or weak central authority. Many became folk heroes, their exploits romanticized, and their motivations sometimes portrayed as noble, even when their actions were brutal or self-serving. The methods of banditry have evolved with technology, from horseback to automobiles, from physical heists to cyber attacks. Yet the core elements remain: operating outside the law, targeting the wealthy or powerful, and capturing the public imagination. Bandits have played a complex role in shaping history and society. While their actions are criminal, they have sometimes exposed societal injustices, challenged oppressive regimes, or simply provided a compelling narrative of rebellion against authority. From Bulla Felix in ancient Rome to Albert Gonzalez in the digital age, these individuals have left an indelible mark on our collective consciousness. As we move further into the 21st century, the nature of banditry continues to evolve. Cybercrime, international fraud schemes, and sophisticated financial crimes present new challenges to law enforcement and society. While the days of highway robbery and train heists may be behind us, the spirit of the bandit, operating outside societal norms, challenging authority, and capturing our imagination, lives on in new forms. In examining these notorious figures, we gain insight not only into the individuals themselves, but also into the societies that produced them. Their stories serve as a mirror, reflecting the values, fears, and fascinations of their times. As we face new challenges and forms of criminality in our increasingly interconnected world, the lessons and legacies of history's greatest bandits remain relevant, reminding us of the ongoing struggle between law and lawlessness, authority and rebellion, justice